You won't believe what just happened in Greenland. The largest protest in its history erupted, with tens of thousands of people flooding the streets of Nuuk. And here's the wild part. Almost everyone in the country took part. Why? To stop an invasion from Donald Trump. That's right. The U.S. president, in a move that sounds like something out of a geopolitical thriller, is threatening to take control of Greenland. But hold on, because this isn't just about Greenland. If Trump follows through, the ripple effects could be felt around the globe. But why is this happening? And what does it mean for you? Stick with me, because the next twist in this story will completely change how you see the world stage. This isn't some isolated protest. This is the result of a series of events that have escalated into a global crisis. You see, Greenland isn't just some far-off land. It's a strategic asset. And when Donald Trump made his infamous offer to buy Greenland, it sent shockwaves around the world. But when Denmark rejected his bid, things took a dangerous turn. Trump didn't back off. Instead, he turned up the pressure. And now countries like the UK, France, Germany, Norway, and Sweden are getting involved, offering military support to protect Greenland from what could be an American invasion. But here's where it gets mind-boggling. What's really going on behind the scenes? Why are these countries suddenly on high alert? And what happens if Trump doesn't back down? Stay with me as the story flips and takes a much darker turn. Trump's next move? A full-on assault on global trade. Moments ago, he posted an explosive message on social media targeting the very countries that are stepping up to protect Greenland. His threat? A 10% tariff on any goods coming from Denmark, France, Germany, Norway, Sweden, and the UK, and that's just the beginning. If these countries don't back off, the tariff could climb to 25% by June. But wait, there's a twist here. Trump claims that the U.S. has subsidized these countries for years, and now it's time for them to pay up. But notice what's missing. Not a word about NATO, the very alliance that stands in the way of any attack on Greenland. Why isn't he addressing the fact that if he moves on Greenland, NATO's Article 5 could drag him into a full-blown war? This is the moment that changes everything. Now let's talk escalation, because what happens next? The situation doesn't just simmer down, it intensifies. Trump is already ramping up tensions, and this isn't just about trade. This is about military force, and the stakes have never been higher. Let's look back for a moment. In the 1950s, the U.S. signed a treaty with Denmark, granting military access to Greenland. Fast forward to today, and Greenland still hosts U.S. military bases, though many were closed in recent years. But Trump wants more. And when countries like Canada, Germany, and France start sending special forces to Greenland, that's not a sign of cooperation. It's a warning shot. The world is watching, and what should be an international cooperation issue is now a ticking time bomb. This is the new normal, and it's about to spiral even further out of control. What happens if Trump doesn't back down? Then Trump drops another bombshell. He claims that Greenland is defended by Denmark and that it only has 2 dog sleds for protection. It's a cheap shot, but it's meant to downplay the real defense network in place. What Trump doesn't say is that Greenland's defense is actually supported by a coalition of NATO forces, including Canada, Germany, Sweden, and France. These nations aren't just sitting on the sidelines. They're ready to go to war if necessary. But here's where it gets more dangerous. Trump's rhetoric isn't just about Greenland anymore. It's about his refusal to acknowledge the geopolitical consequences of his actions. If Greenland is attacked, NATO's Article 5 kicks in, meaning the U.S. could be at war with its own allies. This isn't just a threat to one country, it's a threat to world peace. Now, things start stacking up fast. First, Trump attacks global trade, then he mocks Greenland's defense, and suddenly we're staring down a potential international conflict. Countries are aligning, tensions are rising, and the clock is ticking. Just imagine NATO forces preparing to defend Greenland, Trump doubling down on tariffs, and leaders around the world scrambling to figure out what comes next. Meanwhile, Trump's approval ratings are in freefall, and he's desperate to distract from his domestic problems. What happens when you combine personal ambition with global instability? It's a recipe for chaos. And what happens if this continues? If the pressure keeps building, we're not just talking about one isolated event anymore. This could shift the balance of power worldwide. And the world isn't waiting for Trump to figure it out. But let's zoom out for a moment. What does this really mean for the average person? For you, for me? This isn't just a story of world leaders playing chess. This is about the real-world impact on everyday lives. The more Trump escalates, the more we see the consequences trickling down. If this trade war and military brinksmanship continue, it's not just goods that get caught in the crossfire, it's the people. Prices rise, the cost of living skyrockets, and it's regular citizens who bear the weight. Add to that the uncertainty of military conflict. How long until it affects the security of everyday people? And don't forget, global economies are deeply interconnected. A destabilized Greenland could trigger a domino effect across the world, threatening jobs, resources, and the future. If this feels familiar, say so in the comments. But here's the truth. The real cost could be higher than anyone is ready to admit. Now let's go deeper. What's driving this madness? It's not just about one man's ego or a random geopolitical conflict. There's a system at play here, a system of leverage, spectacle, and power. Think about it. Trump has spent years undermining international agreements, manipulating global trade, and using fear to fuel his agenda. But this is different. He's not just playing with economics, he's playing with the world's security. The mechanics behind this move are chilling. By threatening countries with tariffs and military action, he's creating chaos where none existed, all while distracting from his domestic failures. And here's the unsettling truth. Systems like NATO, alliances, and global trade are fragile. A small spark could set off a much larger fire. Trump's gamble isn't just dangerous for Greenland, it's dangerous for all of us. The world is watching, but is anyone actually stopping him? So what happens next? Two paths are unfolding, and both are perilous. On one hand, Trump could back down. Maybe the pressure from his allies, the mounting resistance, and the threat of full-scale conflict force him to reconsider. Maybe this was all just a bluff to shift the political narrative. But then there's the other path, the one where he doubles down. If he pushes forward with this, the trade wars escalate, NATO forces mobilize, and we could see the beginning of a very dangerous new chapter in global politics. The consequences, global security hangs in the balance. What happens next could change the course of history. The question is, how far is Trump willing to go? And what happens if he doesn't back down? Whatever path is taken, you can bet the world won't be the same afterward. In the end, this isn't just a story about Greenland, Trump, or even NATO. This is a story about power, who holds it, who gets to decide the fate of nations, and how quickly the world can spiral out of control. Greenland's sovereignty may seem like a small issue, but it's the spark that could ignite a much larger conflict. Trump's actions are reshaping the global order, and whether he knows it or not, the world's security is hanging in the balance. As the next chapter unfolds, one thing is clear. The game is far from over. What happens next will determine the future of not just Greenland, but the future of the world itself. Stay tuned, because you won't want to miss what comes next. If you want to keep up with the analysis, hit that follow button. This story is just beginning.